Good morning, and welcome to Mission Viejo's virtual Memorial Day ceremony. I'm Mayor Brian Goodell, and on behalf of my council colleagues, I want to thank you for joining us today as we honor the brave men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Each year, we set this day apart to pay reverence to all those who made the cause of America their supreme choice. We remember and thank them for protecting the homeland, our freedom, and this great republic. Throughout this program, you will see photos of service members from our community who fought and sacrificed for our freedom. Thank you to everyone who shared their photos with us, and thank you to all who served. And now, Father Angelos from St. Killian Church will deliver the invocation, followed by the presentation of colors and the singing of the national anthem.
First of all, I would like to thank our Mayor, Brian Goodell, and our City Council for giving me this opportunity and honor to do the invocation for our Memorial Day celebration. We are here to remember and honor our brave men and women who lay down their lives in military service for our beloved country, the United States of America. Today, the whole world is faced with a crisis that we have never faced before, and our country in particular has been hit hard. But every time we are faced with a crisis, it has brought us closer to one another and closer to our God. Usually we observe Memorial Day by visiting cemeteries or holding public memorial services. Unfortunately, this year, we are forced to celebrate it differently, but with no less love or gratitude. So before I do the invocation, I want to thank our city officials, our sheriff's department, our first responders, and all those who are working extremely hard to keep our city safe and healthy. Please know that you all have done a very commendable job, and we are very grateful. So now let us pray. Gracious God, on this Memorial Day weekend, we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in the service of our country. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and to win the same for others. As our nation pauses today to remember those in the military who have given their lives for freedoms we enjoy, we pray you would have us all look to you for strength, comfort, guidance, and hope. Be with all who serve in our armed forces. Bless them and their families. Grant your loving protection. Let peace prevail among all the nations, O God. Especially let your mercy rest upon our land, even as we acknowledge with thanksgiving your past goodness on this country. Today we also lift up to you those who are fighting this invincible enemy, the coronavirus. Like our brave soldiers, many men and women in medical field have sacrificed their lives while trying to save and protect those who have been affected by this virus. These are also our heroes. We turn to you, dear Lord, in our time of need and trouble, for on our own we are not strong enough to fight this battle. But with you on our side, we can overcome any struggle and defeat all our enemies who threaten our lives and freedom. So we entrust your loving care the lives of our men and women in uniform and all our first responders who defend our country and our lives. Keep them safe and protect them from harm's way. May our hearts be filled with gratitude to you for your many blessings and to them for their selfless service. May our country and the whole world experience peace and prosperity. We make this prayer in your holy name. Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Father Angelus, for your moving invocation. I'd also like to thank Dawn Wright for her beautiful rendition of the national anthem. It is a privilege to serve Mission Viejo with my council colleagues. Mayor Pro Tem Trish Kelly, whose husband Jack was a Marine Corps combat veteran, Council Member Wendy Bucknam, Council Member and retired United States Marine Corps Colonel Greg Raths, a combat veteran, and Council Member Ed Sachs, a U.S. Navy officer who earned the Meritorious Unit Commendation for Valor in combat zones in Vietnam. They will be presenting with me throughout this program. Our city takes pride in displaying the American Hero tribute banners you see in the Kershaw Garden each year. This year, we have a drive-through display in the courtyard outside of the library and City Hall through May 28th. I encourage you to drive through and view these banners that honor the fallen soldiers who gave their lives in the wars on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan. There you will find many words of wisdom, such as Lance Corporal Fabry, a member of Headquarters Battalion, 1st Marine Division. The night before his death, he said these words: "There are heroes and there are legends. Heroes are remembered, legends never die." These many generations of legends live on in our hearts. And to all active duty military and veterans, thank you for your service. Now I invite Council Member Ed Sachs to introduce our esteemed keynote speaker.
From Mims, Florida, Colonel Griffin is a graduate of Georgia Southern University, Marine Corps Command and Staff College, Naval War College, and holds master's degree in military studies and national security affairs. In 2002, he was assigned to the 1st Marine Regiment, where he commanded Company A, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines. During Operation Iraqi Freedom, his company participated in the initial ground assault from Kuwait to Baghdad, as well as 4 months of follow-on stability operations. After other deployments and numerous roles and achievements, Colonel Griffin assumed command of Headquarters Battalion, 1st Marine Division in July of 2018. He is highly decorated, and we are grateful to his vast contributions. It is my privilege and honor to introduce to you Colonel Christian Griffin as our keynote speaker. Colonel Griffin.
I'm Colonel Chris Griffin, and I command Headquarters Battalion, 1st Marine Division, the unit that is so graciously supported by you and the whole community of Mission Viejo. We in Headquarters Battalion are so lucky and blessed to have been adopted by Mission Viejo, and we deeply appreciate all that you do for our Marines and sailors. It's my honor to join you today, albeit virtually, as we celebrate Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a somber day that we as Americans pause to honor the many men and women in uniform throughout our history who've paid the ultimate sacrifice and given their lives for a cause larger than themselves. It's easy to lose sight of the fact that each of these thousands of sacrifices has a story, a family, friends, and unfulfilled dreams. So please allow me to tell you the story of one particular Marine who gave his life while serving in Headquarters Battalion in 2004. Lance Corporal James Swain was an intelligence analyst who was attached to the infantry battalion that I was serving with at the time. Our unit was in the midst of brutal house-to-house fighting in Fallujah, Iraq. James, while largely sheltered from the fighting, worked tirelessly day and night to provide information to the frontline units that helped us target pockets of resistance with standoff weapons prior to troops entering those buildings. James was tall and thin with shockingly white skin, and he wore wireframe glasses. In the weeks prior to the battle, he could often be found encircled by other Marines, explaining to them how the Electoral College worked, or fundamental differences between liberals and conservatives, or the political ideology that drove the American Revolution. A couple weeks into the battle, it became necessary for the battalion to change out some of the exhausted personnel in the Ford headquarters located on the edge of the city. A convoy of 5 vehicles was organized to transport the Marines from the rear area. There were not enough Marines necessary to man the vehicles, and the radios required. James volunteered to participate in the convoy. As this convoy approached the city, the lead driver took a wrong turn that led the convoy far too close to the fighting that was raging to the south. The convoy leader eventually recognized his error, and he stopped the convoy to determine its location and to plan a new route. While the convoy sat there in the heavily built-up area, James noticed several heavily armed enemy soldiers darting through the adjacent alleys, attempting to encircle the convoy. As James was attempting to notify the convoy leader, he saw an enemy soldier moving into position and beginning to take aim with a rocket. Without hesitation, James sprang out of his seat and he climbed into the unoccupied gun turret, and he began firing his machine gun at the enemy. As he neutralized the enemy rocketeer, enemy soldiers from every direction opened fire on James's position. James was mortally wounded by an enemy round that entered his torso underneath his flak jacket. James immediately knew that he was severely wounded. He was bleeding heavily, and he told his fellow Marines in the vehicle that he wasn't sure how much longer he could fight on. Yet he continued to man the machine gun and to defend the convoy until he ultimately lost consciousness at the gun, having been wounded several more times in the process, and himself neutralizing another 8 enemy fighters. 3 other men in the convoy were wounded that day, but only James fell. James's bold actions prevented the convoy from being encircled, and he protected his fellow Marines. For his brave actions, James was awarded the intelligence community's Medal of Valor, the intelligence community's second highest award, typically reserved for operatives whose actions are largely unknown to most of us. James was not an infantry Marine. None of us would have expected James to do what he did, and none of us would have thought any less of him had he not. Yet he did so without hesitation. 1 year after James's death, his younger brother joined the Navy, and he chose to be a Navy corpsman so that he could serve alongside Marines like James. And 3 years after that, James's brother heard that a sister Marine unit was scheduled to deploy to Fallujah. He asked to change units so that he could go along. And within 5 months, hospitalman Swain was able to walk the streets of Fallujah where his brother James had given his life. I often wonder how we can show our gratitude for the sacrifices that James and other men and women have made. I wonder what James would want of me. I believe that James would want me to be the best me that I can, to be worthy of my position. I would believe that he would want all of us to do that. James would be actively involved in making his community and his country even better, but with the understanding that we live in the greatest place on earth and that we're blessed to live in a place where we can do so. I believe that he'd want us to all live life to the fullest extent and to protect liberty and the pursuit of happiness with the recognition that has been preserved to date at great cost. Thank you all for joining me today in honoring the men and women like James whose sacrifices have preserved this great country and our way of life. I'm so thankful for the honor to lead the Marines and Sailors of Headquarters Battalion, and we are all very thankful for your continued support. God bless and Semper Fi.
Thank you, Colonel Griffin, for your service and for sharing your message with Mission Viejo. Our guest speaker today is Lieutenant Colonel John Bly. Lieutenant Colonel Bly graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point in 2000, after which he was commissioned as an engineer officer. In 2006, Lieutenant Colonel Bly became a Special Forces officer, serving in a variety of positions and conducting deployments to the Middle East, Central Asia, Eastern Europe, and Africa. Lieutenant Colonel Bly was selected as a battalion commander and assumed command of the U.S. Army Recruiting Battalion for Southern California in July of 2018. He is also highly decorated, and we are so grateful for his service. Please welcome our next speaker, Lieutenant Colonel John Bly.
Thank you to the city and residents of Mission Viejo for this opportunity to speak and represent the Army and our other military branches on this Memorial Day. I'm Lieutenant Colonel John Bly, the commander of the U.S. Army Recruiting Battalion for Southern California. We are headquartered right here in Mission Viejo, and we have 38 recruiting stations throughout Southern California. I'm honored to speak today for a couple reasons. One, to speak to the importance of Memorial Day, the value of it to me as an American. And two, this week marks my 20th year of service in the United States Army, so this day has a special importance to me as a soldier. I grew up in Hannibal, Missouri, a small, typical Midwestern town on the Mississippi River, with its claim to fame being the boyhood home of Mark Twain, and the setting is up of his iconic books, Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. I grew up surrounded by Mark Twain, as everything in the town is named after him or characters in his book. Ironically, I've learned more about Mark Twain from being in the Army than I did growing up in Hannibal. Throughout my career with the Army, I've traveled to many places that Mark Twain himself visited, and I learned more about him and his writings as I stumbled upon these locations as a fellow innocent abroad. He's quite the literary master, and even though I share his boyhood hometown, I don't have his gift of writing, so I apologize in advance for the dullness of my speech. So growing up in Hannibal, Missouri, every Memorial Day revolved around visiting the cemetery and placing flowers at the grave sites of family members. It was an opportunity to remember, and an opportunity for me to learn a little more about those family members that went before me. And as I've grown older, much like all of us, I've realized the impact those family members have had on my life. It is to them that I attribute my work ethic and my values. It is to them that I shaped my choices in life that has ultimately led to my call to service and my career in the Army. My one grandfather grew up as a Depression-era farmer, and after losing their farms in one town, he and his brothers resettled near Hannibal and found success building Quonset huts for farmers. Through his hard work, he created a successful construction company focused on building a better community. He and his wife, my grandmother, worked hard, were incredibly humble, and left behind a strong family, strong values, and a sense of service above self. My other grandparents raised 6 children. I have no idea how they did it, because my aunts and uncles are quite the colorful cast. My grandmother was always a smiling force of calm, strongly holding it all together. My grandfather was always on the go, always working, always learning, both to support himself and to better himself. I think from them, I inherited my drive to continuously push myself and to not quit despite the challenge. Overall, from both sides of my family, the common theme is that they were all driven by a sense of duty to family, duty to community, and duty to country, and always focused on doing what's right. To me, that's the quintessential American spirit, the sense of duty that resides in the American people that has made our country great, and the American values focused on the harder right over the easier wrong. So part of my Memorial Day is focused on my family, my past family, and my present family, their importance to me, and the gratitude I have for being an American, and the great people that have come before me and shaped our American values and way of life. Additionally, the importance of Memorial Day has grown during my career in the Army. During my time in the Army, I often think of the line from the book of Isaiah. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" And I said, "Here I am, send me." While in high school, I was unsure what to do for college. As a valedictorian in my high school, I knew I wanted to push myself academically, and I had some aspirations of going to medical school. I was even accepted into a 6-year, year-round medical program at the University of Missouri in Kansas City. However, I wanted to push myself beyond academics, and I felt a compulsion to serve. Having the fortune to be raised by a mother that was a high school history teacher, I knew about the different service academies and the roles that many service academy graduates, particularly West Point, played in the historical events of our nation. I knew that West Point's focus was to create leaders of character, while also providing a great education and unique challenges, all different from the regular college experience. The opportunity to challenge myself academically, physically, and develop leadership through service is what drew me to West Point, and what draws many to serve in the U.S. Army today. It is an experience and education unlike any other. I'm thankful that I've been able to have this experience, and I'm thankful that I could serve, when 71% of today's youth are not able to serve due to various disqualifying factors. I'm thankful for the great Americans, the true heroes and legends that I have served with during my 20-year career as a Special Forces officer. I've been fortunate to have a career that has allowed me to serve alongside our country's best, true, quiet professionals that voluntarily raised their hand to serve and sacrifice. These professionals volunteered and sacrificed to miss countless birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, to miss critical moments in their child's lives, or in the worst case, make the ultimate sacrifice in service of our country. And I remember those heroes on occasions like this. Heroes like Captain Benjamin Tiffner, who was my classmate at West Point. We both became Special Forces detachment commanders. His team arrived to replace my team in Baghdad in October 2007, at the end of our tour. Ben was an outstanding soldier and leader, highly respected by peers and subordinates alike. Ben was killed by a roadside bomb 2 weeks after we changed out. As I look back on my career and the family that I've grown since then, I remember Ben and the sacrifice that he made for our country. Last year, we lost Sergeant Major Ryan Starter in Afghanistan. Ryan joined Special Forces about the same time as I. He had served more than enough years to retire with a litany of accomplishments under his belt. However, he still felt the need to deploy one more time with his soldiers, because he felt like he hadn't done enough. With soldiers like Ben, Ryan, Brad Connor, Matt Mattingly, Ben Smith, and the list goes on, I think of the quote from President Reagan when speaking at Sergeant Roy Benavidez's Medal of Honor presentation. Where did we find such men? We find them where we've always found them. In our villages and towns, on our streets, in our shops, and on our farms. Therefore, on this and every Memorial Day, I remember those that have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And I'm thankful that today we are still able to find those heroic men and women where we always find them, to serve our country and to have the sense of duty to make our country better. So on this Memorial Day, cherish your family, remember those we've lost, and be passionate about living with purpose and finding a way to serve. Thank you.
My dearest son, it's almost June. I hope this letter catches up with you, finds you well. It's been dry, but they're calling for rain, and everything's the same old same in Johnsonville. Your stubborn old daddy ain't said too much, but I'm sure you know he sends his love. And she goes on in a letter from home. Hold it up and show my buddies like we ain't scared, and our boots ain't money, and they all laugh like there's something funny about the way I talk when I say mama sends her best, y'all. Fold it up and put it in my shirt, pick up my gun and get back to work, and it keeps me driving home, waiting on letters from home. My dearest love, it's almost dawn, and I've been lying here all night long, wondering where you might be. I saw your mama and I showed her the ring, then on the television said something, so I couldn't sleep. And I'll be alright, I'm just missing you. This is me kissing you, X's and O's, and a letter from home. Hold it up and show my buddies like we ain't scared, and our boots ain't money, and they all laugh, 'cause she calls me honey, but they take it hard, 'cause I don't read the good parts. I fold it up and put it in my shirt, pick up my gun and get back to work, and it keeps me driving home, waiting on letters from home. Dear son, I know I ain't ready, but sitting here tonight alone in the kitchen, it occurs to me I might not have said it, but I'll say it now. Son, you make me proud. Hold it up and show my buddies like we ain't scared, and our boots ain't muddy, but no one laughs, 'cause there ain't nothing funny when a soldier cries, and I just wipe my eyes. I fold it up and put it in my shirt, pick up my gun and get back to work, and it keeps me driving home, waiting on letters from home.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Bly, for your moving speech. In 2006, the City of Mission Viejo adopted Headquarters Battalion, 1st Marine Division at Camp Pendleton. At that time, the Marines and Sailors Adoption Committee was formed to focus solely on supporting our Marines and their families. Over the years, the committee and countless volunteers and donors from our community have made a difference for our adopted battalion. And here today is Gail Wood, chairperson of the Marine and Sailors Adoption Committee, and Sergeant Major Rosilio Schifo, Battalion Sergeant Major, with a message for our community.
Hello, I'm Gail Wood, Chairperson of the Mission Viejo Marine and Sailors Adoption Committee.
And I'm Sergeant Major Rosalia Schifo with the city's adopted Headquarters Battalion, 1st Marine Division, Camp Pendleton.
On behalf of the Marine and Sailors Adoption Committee, I'd like to thank our community for your continued support. Over the years, we've received so many donations, care packages, and volunteers, which enable our committee to continue providing much-needed support for our adopted battalion. Thanks to you, we're able to provide baby supplies for the battalion's newest arrivals, care packages for our deployed troops, a day at Lake Mission Viejo for the battalion to relax and unwind, holiday gifts for the battalion's children and families in need, and we can even help with special requests, like sponsoring the battalion's soccer team and paying the travel expenses for a young Marine to visit his ailing father.
On behalf of the Marines and families of Headquarters Battalion, thank you. We truly appreciate the support and generosity the Mission Viejo community has shown over the years, and it's a comfort to know the city of Mission Viejo has our back. Semper Fidelis.
Thank you, Mission Viejo.
Thank you, Gail and Sergeant Major Schifo. Thank you to each and everyone watching today for joining us in honoring the sacrifice of so many. And to our World War II veterans, our Korean War veterans, our Vietnam War veterans, our Gulf War veterans, and our War on Terror veterans, thank you for your service. We will close the ceremony today with Dawn singing God Bless America, followed by the 3-volley rifle salute and taps. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe and healthy, and God bless you.
Stand beside her and guide her through the night with light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. My home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. It's from the mountains to the prairies and to the oceans wide with foam.